Alright guys, welcome back to another episode. I know it's been a while, but we have been cooking in the workshop. We have tried our best and we have succeeded. So I present to you, we've created a new PPF kit for the winter bull bar by Raslarr. So firstly, I want to thank Raslarr Engineering for their absolute amazing support in trying to get this product through the line. By lending us a bar for as long as we needed, and it's just been absolutely helpful and friendly throughout the whole process. So here it is. So the design that we have chosen for the winter bar is basically a DIY PPF kit. So it's a clear, optically clear film that's going to protect the front of your car for any stone chips and road debris and things like that when you're doing the long distance drives. The kit comes in multiple pieces, okay? So don't think there's going to be millions of joins everywhere. So essentially we've got to cut it down into DIY-able installations for those who are beginners to intermediate, or those who know what they're doing. So we've got two pieces on the side here. We've got one whole piece to cover the front. We've got three pieces there, so just where we can move around the welded points, and the two pieces on the side. So it will come with the actual PPF covers for these, and we've got a bunch to go through there. So one piece here and one piece left and right. In the kit, you're going to be provided with a full gloss PPF kit, all pre-cut, all done. And then in addition, we're going to supply satin PPF for these sides. So you're going to either have a choice of gloss on these black bits or satin. Apart from that, so the DIY kit was designed for a bar that was off the vehicle. So essentially, if you have the bar already installed, it just requires a little bit of trimming just to go around these rubber edges here. Okay, not too much, but we'll explain the process once we get through it. So I'm going to take you over to what you're going to receive in the kit, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, welcome back. So in this kit, you're going to receive the packaging box that it comes in. You're going to receive the kit itself, which is all pre-cut, ready to go. You're going to receive a little installation guide on how to determine what part is for what. Also, PPF solution that we've created here, a PPF specific blade, be careful, this is very sharp, PPF squeegees, and instruction manuals, of course, and then the following step to this video. Now, what you're going to need on your end is 3 bottles, 3 1 litre spray bottles. You can buy these at your local hardware store. A couple of microfibers. A heat gun comes in handy for the post-installation process. And that's pretty much it for the hardware side of it. So in the first bottle, you're going to fill up 2 pumps in a 1 litre bottle. The second one's just going to be with plain water, cold water. And then the third one is going to be with hot water. So I'm going to show you how to contour some of the edges, and that way you get a nice clean cut all the way around. Okay, so let's go. All right, guys, a few things to consider when installing this kit. If you have the bull bar already installed on your vehicle, there's not much of a change when it comes to the installation. It's just minor trimming around the top edge. These rubbers are designed to either sit a bit further back or forward, depending on how hard pressed they are. But essentially, the kit that we've made is going to come over the top, and all you need to do is just trim it with the PPF specific knife. So this is a very sharp knife. Please keep it away from children. We sort of prick ourselves all the time, unfortunately. If it is installed off the vehicle and you've got it in certain pieces, okay, we do recommend that you install the sensors first. So the kit is designed to be flush around the sensor, not underneath. So there's about 1 millimeter gap. This way it doesn't get pressed and pinch, because over time what happens is that the vibrations will tend to move it across. So we've just cut around it. If you install your sensor first, the positioning for the bottom section is going to be perfect all the way throughout. The same goes for the center. If it is regardless install, we recommend removing your winch plate and the number plate here. That way you have clean access. Everything's all pre-cut around the letters and the holes. It's basically slap it on, squeeze it off, easy done. Okay. We'll show you the guide on how to do this. We're going to supply, again, as I mentioned before, a gloss with the kit, but we're also going to supply a satin just for the black sections only. Okay, so these are all pre-cut again, as I said, and we'll show you the process on how to install these. That'll go from here to the bottom. The kit's on the side is installed in one piece over the top that finishes about here. The second piece goes from here down to the bottom and then meets up in the middle here. So you're gonna have a little bit of a line, but in terms of the DIY phase, it's the easiest way to do it with sort of minimal errors. Coming across here, we're gonna work the film across to the side. So you'll have the top piece come through, follow through here, and then the bottom piece with a little bit of stretching around this corner to meet up sort of at the end there. And then all the kits sort of you fold over, and we've cut around all these little nuts and bolts down here to make it fit. With the centerpiece, we haven't gone as far as to do these little bits here. So you're gonna get a nice sort of close cut rectangle around there. And then it'll come up, it'll fold underneath a couple of mil, and it'll come up to about halfway. So it still gives you room to install your round LED lights there if you need to. And then the centerpiece will fold over and go right to the back edge there. So we're trying to cover as much of the paintwork and forward-facing impact areas. This way it is all covered, but you understand there are tolerances when it comes to PPF, especially with the DIY. So we've taken the liberty to create the template, install it on the bar that was off the vehicle, and then we've had an amazing customer leave us this for the weekend because we can't afford a Patrol. Unfortunately, we're getting there. That way we can basically readjust the prototype and allow tolerances for certain areas, like as such with the installed sensors and so on. So hopefully the installation video goes great. I hope you like the product. We pride ourselves in delivering top quality stuff with premium materials. That way we know it's going to last. You've got your warranties on top, and if you do make a mistake, you can always send us a message, and then the team will be able to send you out replacement pieces if need be. All right, so enjoy the video, guys. We're going to start cleaning and prepping this bar. It's going to be basically detergent sprayed down, give it a wipe, then we're going to spray it again, pink squeegee, and then we're going to start applying the PPF itself. Okay, so I'm going to run you through the step-by-step process. We're going to work on the sides, we're going to work on the middle, and then all the little bits and accessories across. All right, easy, guys, thank you. So as you can see, we've got all the pieces cut out here. Essentially, what we're going to do is select, I'll start with the middle first, so that's the big bottom left piece here. We've got the Raslarr cut out, all the sensors and areas that need to be cut out, and when it folds underneath, you've got everything in place. Okay, this is designed to be nice and easy. This is the first time installing it for us, so essentially, we're not sure how long it's going to take yet, but I'm hoping about an hour and a half, give or take. A good project for the weekend. All right, guys, so we're going to work on the side here. So essentially, as I mentioned before, this piece is going to be split up into two pieces. You're going to get one piece that covers and overlaps over the front edge here, runs across this middle section, gets folded through, and then comes over the top as well. So that's one piece together. And then the other piece, you're going to line it up with the sensor there and the perimeter of this fog light shroud. And then it's going to come across here. So not overly difficult. We've designed it to be basically all flat facing, minimal stretch. Obviously we've got to come around here so you get a nice clean, seamless finish. We don't want to start adding patches where it's unnecessary. Now, if you have the bar installed on your car, we're going to need to trim around the rubber. You can go ahead and remove it, but I'm not sure how difficult it's going to be to get that sort of rubber back on. So just for the purposes of this video, if you have it off the car, go ahead and install it right to the edge. But if you've already installed it and looking for additional protection, all you need to do is just basically squeegee to the edge. We'll let it dry, and then we'll come around with the specific knife. I'll show you how to cut PPF, nice and easy, but it's pretty straightforward. It's not overly difficult, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and give this a wipe down, and then I'll show you the process on how to get it ready for PPF. So cleaning is paramount. If it is a new bar, freshly painted, then there's very minimal steps to do this. This is basically your flip solution. You can use that as a cleaning agent as well. If you're bar's been on your car for a while, you've got to understand that, you know, stone chips can happen. It may show through the PPF. So we do recommend the newer the better. But it's not in the end of the world if there's just a couple of extra steps involved. Your bull bar is going to see a lot of bug and tar, so if you're going to need to use those, we recommend going down to your auto shop, buying bug and tar cleaner, road grime, because we want this surface to be nice and perfect. Okay. But again, adding the tolerances here, there's going to be a little bit of, it's just fluid buildup in these cracked areas. It's not the end of the world. Sort of the moisture comes out after the PPF cures. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to give it another spray. Run your PPF squeegee. Squeegee all the water like so. All right, something to be very mindful of, even if you need to pressure wash this before installing it, a lot of dirt gets built up in these sections and up on the top if the rubber is installed. So we do recommend maybe on the jet, flush as much of the dirt out as you can. There's nothing worse than trying to install it and all the dirt comes out from underneath everywhere. So with PPF, preparation is key. Because it's going to affect your overall finish. And obviously what we're trying to achieve here is optically clear protection. Okay. Again, we understand everybody's got the ability to be DIYer, and I think it's good for people to get hands-on, especially when it comes to four-wheel drives. All right, so now that's done. So what I'm going to do here is basically, I'm going to peel up the section where, sorry, which one am I looking at? That one? Okay. So I'm going to peel it up. I'm going to spray with the slip solution to get the backing nice and wet. That way it doesn't stick on itself and it removes all the static. So if you peel this up, it's going to create static and it's going to attract dust towards the adhesive side. So the quicker we can get that eliminated, the easier it's going to be for us to get it on the surface. I'm going to lift it up a little bit. Spray. Just be careful not to pick it up too aggressively, just in case it slips. Once it's off the car, keep it away, keep it above your knees off the ground, just so that static doesn't pick up anything from the floor. All right, we're going to spray the adhesive side, and as you can see, the slip solution goes all foamy. We're going to go ahead and spray the surface again. All right, so what we're going to work with is positioning points. There's a couple of things to note when installing one of these. Is how you position it. Positioning also is key to make sure that this isn't too far down, because you might miss out here. So we've tried to make it as accurate as possible when it comes to getting it around here. So if you've positioned this perfectly, you can just double check. That's nice there. So there's a little join. Come around here and then basically lining that up. And this top section should sit down. All right. So we are going to add a little bit of stretch in this section because this needs to come back a little bit more. But that's all, we've allowed that tolerance so we can actually pull it a little bit this way. So once you've got it installed there, you can shake to move it. If it tacks too quickly, then you might need to add another drop of slip solution. You want it sort of foamy like it is now. That way you can move it on the surface and position as you please. You just want it even off the edges. We've allowed probably 2 mil off the edge. So if you get that even, it's going to be perfect all the way throughout. Like I said, there's no stretching on this front part. It's just to get around that corner. Okay. So we're going to split this up into a couple of sections. So we're going to focus on getting the front face down. That way it's tacked. And then we can work on the sides and the top. So we're going to spray the top. We're going to go with a dragging motion. So I'm going to hold here. So that way if I'm squeegeeing, it's not going to pinch. Just lightly. I'll secure the bottom. And then I'll come up. So this way if you're squeegeeing up towards here, all the moisture in the water is going to move upwards. That way you don't create dry spots. So I'm going to go to that top edge. Alrighty, so that's the front face done, easy. Couple minutes, nothing too crazy. All right, it's designed to come as close as possible here without going over the edge. Otherwise, what happens here, you're gonna need a little bit more work to finesse it through the area. And every bar is different. It's not always gonna be 100% accurate. Got to allow for tolerances on everything. All right, so once you've got that, we'll come over the front edge like so. And that's it. Don't overwork it. You can come back once it's a little bit dry. But essentially, you go over the top, right to the rubber. Don't force it in, just leave it there until it's sort of flicked up on the edge. We'll come back, and because this is an installed bar, we can get a knife and just trim in there. So you get a nice clean cut finish. And I'll show you the right way so you don't have to dig into your paint. Okay. So I'm not overworking it, I'm just getting a majority of the moisture out and just letting it sit. All right, so that's the front done. I'm going to come over to the back edge here. I'll lift it all off. And see how if I pull it, it sits. So that's what we're not trying to overstretch it, we're just trying to make it hug like that. And by doing that, I can still move it up and down. So I want to line up top edge here as best as I can. So I'll pull down with my hand, squeegee. Okay. So I'll get a little bit more. So remember, when you press, you're removing all the moisture, so it can tack in a spot or two. So that's what you want. Top and bottom's all gone. All right, and we're only just coming around the corner. I don't go too far because you've got horizontal lines that are going to form. Okay, and you're still going to have moisture here, that's fine. But when I let it go, sweet. All right. So I'm going to lift it up now, just let it relax. So the back point here should have enough to tuck around and the designs should be there. You should have a little bit overhanging here for your fold, and then there's enough hanging down the bottom for where your bolt or nut bolt is, whatever you want to call it. All right, so we're going to go down the middle here. I'm holding the back to position it so that doesn't go wonky. that. Straight down and up. All right, so we're going to get all the moisture out this way. It's going to do this, but don't stress. So what happens when it comes to the edges, because you've got the slip solution there, it's not allowing the adhesive to tack completely. You've got two options. You can flush it out with the water bottle that you have with cold water. You'll flush it out from the bottom, which I'll show you. So I like to use the jet function. Okay. So just keep spraying until all right. And that tacks all the way across. All right. Remember, this is wet apply, so don't start forcing it like this. Just come back to it. Just come back to it. Just follow on, and you can come back. All right, so I'll try tack this top section down here like so. And that way you'll have a joint up here. Unfortunately, it's extremely difficult to not have one there. But to get a seamless finish all across the front, that's the best we can sort of do with this design. All right, you've got the back section. So we're just going to fold it around the corner there. And I can't stress enough how clean it has to be. Really get under and clean all this. So it's just going to affect the overall finish. I mean, it's a quality product. Not overly difficult to do. Okay, so now what I'm going to try focus on is getting the final position. So you just want to probably a couple mil off the edge. That should sit nicely once we heat that up and shrink a little bit. And basically it's just flat. So I'll roll my PPF, push. Oop. Like so. That's pretty much the top section done. Okay. We're going to roll a little bit more, but you're going to find that the rubber is going to get in the way if you are installing it on a already installed vehicle. We always have the ability to move on and then come back to it. So I'm happy with how that sits at the moment. We're going to come back. We're going to install this one first, next, and then come back to the top once it dries out a little bit and the film settles into place. All right, all soaked up, ready to go. And the same process applies with the film on the car. Okay. So we'll slap it on there, so you've got a nice, easy finish around the center. Okay. All right, so it should be exactly where you want it. And we're going to position this like so. The better your position, the easier it's going to be to install. So it's not going to be 100% join, but we're going to butt it up as close as we can. Easy. So I'm happy with that. All right, so we're going to split this up into 3 sections now. So you're going to get 1, 2, 3. All right, and then we're going to come around and again with the same process, but we're going to use hot water instead to soften this and then stretch it across. We go ahead and spray again. We want to secure the position around the sensor. All right. Keep an eye, sometimes a bit tricky to see, but just keep an eye, make sure that the PPF is off the edge there. Okay, just go to about halfway. And as I said before, that sort of stone chip is going to be visible, unfortunately. So it is recommended the newer the better, but isn't the end of the world. PPF should prevent more stone chips. All right, so now we're going to add a little bit of stretch because there is a small contour here. So that's a stretch there, just enough to get the PPF over the edge. I'm going to take the top. Okay. Now that fog light surrounds, tack down. Okay. So we've added enough tolerance for probably about 1 or 2 mil around here, give or take, depending on your position. But the overall finish should be nice and seamless. Right, then we can go ahead. That's sorted. What I'm trying to do is just get a nice finish here. So that way when it dries out, I've only got probably a mil gap. Everything's still finished nicely. So we'll come down to about here. We'll get all this tacked down. So about there. Now our next focus is there's going to be a little bit of pulling and positioning to get all this across. But your front facing is done. If there's a little bit of lifting up here, remember, don't overwork it. We'll come back when it's a little bit drier. And don't try dry it. Because what happens if I grab my microfiber to dry and I go up, I'm just going to get all the microfibers caught in the edges and it's not going to be nice. You'll be kicking and screaming, and so will I. All right, so essentially just let that do its thing. We'll come and focus on this. So what we want to be doing is, with a little bit of heat, it's going to soften this bottom edge up, and it's going to allow us to drag this across here. It should marry up those lines as best as possible. But you're going to want hot water for this. So it doesn't have to be kettle hot, it can just be tap hot. If you have a steamer, works a little bit better. Essentially, alright, so it can get a bit tricky. Put an extra set of hands, always helps. Alright, we're just going to get around that mound. Also try flush some of the slip solution out from behind. Okay. So once it's across that mound, that's alright if it's got a little bit here, because we can just pull this bottom section and let it relax like that. The hard part's done. So where it joins here, see the top of the edge, you want it at the bottom right there. So that way it folds in on 2 different angles. I'll let that sit for a couple of minutes. We'll come back to it. Now that we're back, I'm going to peel PPF, grab my slip solution, just going to try position it as best as I can. So, alright, so okay, it's going to come back on you because it's got the slip solution in it. Just get all the moisture out. So you'll have a nice line all the way through here, a closer line through there, depending on how you positioned it initially. I can flush this out. Flush the bottom. Alright, so if I tack it, it's stuck. Alright, so a bit wet, I don't want to force it too much. We're just going to let it dry out, so I'll soak it with water from behind, get all the slip solution out, just let it dry, then goes to this. Okay, so slowly it does want to work, but we'll move on to the next and then we'll come back. So as it sits, you've got nice sort of clean cut there. The positioning is pretty good on this one. So you've got 2 mil tolerance all the way through, which should position it nicely. You've got this edge that's sort of sitting here, but again, we'll come back when it dries out a little bit. And get on this front edge here. On the top, once it's all dry, we've got a position. We're just going to be trimming just a little bit off there and around the top. Alright, I'll show you how to do that so that way it's nice and easy. Again, once it's a little bit dry, we'll get that down. They're not overlapping each other. It's just as close as they can go. You've got a nice clean finish all the way through here. We'll let it dry. We can fold that down, and again with the back edge. The top edge will need to be extremely dry for us to squeegee and then trim. And then the bottom here, again, has to be really dry. Let's see if I can get you positioned properly. Alright, so we're going to squeegee. So as it sits, because it's still wet, it's not wanting to do anything. But there are ways around that. Again, that's the overall finish, and then this one sort of overlaps that there. And the same with the bottom, should be cut out around the bolts. Everything is designed with a few millimeters, but as close to perfection as we can get it. So we'll come back to this one. We'll move on to the middle. All right guys, we're going to work on the middle now. So the middle's pretty straightforward. Again, if the bar is installed, the only thing you've got to worry about is basically where the camera's mounted. Dirt and debris falling from under here, so make sure it's clean. Make sure you have your sensors installed. Remove your number plate and your winch plate here. And apart from that, everything else is pretty good. So this is how you want it. I'm gonna get it nice and clean. So you should be able to install this with no cutting required. So keep in mind this middle bit can be a little bit tricky to remove. Like it's just done that on me because I am one person. But because I've got the slip solution on there, it's not going to stick to itself. The more hands, the better. All right, so we're going to position this. Position your sensors first. So that's locked in there. And that's locked in there. I'm going to quickly fold the top over, just sit it down nice and lightly. Get it around that camera. Right. Now that's positioned. I'm going to lift up underneath. Get it sprayed. And it's all about positioning. So, you can do to position a little bit better, you can smack it. Get it to slide. All right, but we've allowed 2 mil around everywhere for an absolutely gorgeous finish. All right, this will be the quickest installation you'll see. Once it's positioned nicely, we'll spray over the top. Now there's a trick to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work one side and then add a little bit of tension that way and then tack down this side. So I always work with my sensors. So that's tacked down there. I'll move this, make sure it's not kinked up on the edge. And then just watching my guidelines here, that the film's not like that. Up. So try don't not go too hard, because then what happens here, it sort of kinks. And fill this back up to here. So we'll work the bottom first. You want to get all the water out. You'll go light pass and then come back. Just do even passes everywhere. There's no moisture bubbles or dry spots. Pretty easy to work with. It's pretty fun. For me, it's quite relaxing. I've been doing this for a while. So we'll work on the middle and then fold the edges. So there's absolutely no real tension needed here. It should marry up nicely. squeegee the water. And then all the pre-cut holes should line up perfectly. And we've allowed it probably 2 or 3 mil from the edges. That way dirt doesn't get caught. Right, that's the bottom done. And basically with the top, it's going to go right to the back edge there. I want to make sure all the slip solution comes out of here. And then what you might find, depending on the welds, it was hard for us to design around here. So we are going to squeegee all the slip solution out. You're going to see a little bit of a flick here, just let it dry. Again, we'll come back to that. So we'll do the initial installation, then we'll come back and do all the finishing touches. The reason why I add slip solution on the top is just for the squeegee to glide better. Smooth. I'm going to drag and then push the water out towards the edge. Alright, so the back end of this, I'm going to go lightly towards the middle. If I push, it's just going to push this over the edge. So it can be a little bit of a tricky one, but with patience. That's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward. It's a nice flat piece. Again, we work with flats. There's no real reason to stretch any of this. Do not apply it in the sun because you're going to have a nightmare getting installed. Around the edges, once you're done, what you can do, if it sort of bubbles up, just spray the edge with the water. And we've fallen short on purpose on the edges here because the welds are always different. So we want to stay away from welds when we PPF, because it's not a flat surface to stick to. So we've done our best to cover the painted sections and a little bit over. All right, you've got big gaps here and then about 4 mil there. I'm just using my water to flush out all the slip solution. Nice clean finish on the edges. And that's the middle section done. Nice and easy, straightforward. As you can see, we've got the PPF around this edge. There's about 32 mil. There's a little bit of a gap here. It's a gap there, but your number plate goes on that. The winch cover, so it's right to the edge here, about 2 mil off. You got 2 mils on there, so your winch plate should go there. And if we have a look underneath, It's finished right to the edge, about 2 mil short. I think my favorite part about this entire front is how nicely we got the template to finish and the logo there. So I'm pretty happy about that. That took me forever, but we got there in the end. So again, getting all the dirt, the rubbers here. Your slip solution is going to be your best friend. If you find that when you squeegee and it's still shifting, that means you've got too much slip solution. So remember, less first, so you go 2 drops, and then if it's too tacky, then maybe 1 more drop. Okay, so tack down, nice and easy. The overall position. So it's just a matter of millimeters, but we've done enough templates for the prototype to get it to sit nicely. Okay, so that's perfect there, that's where we want it. And that means this lines up, that pretty much lines up with its stretch, of course. And then if we flick this out and get that to sit, that should sit flat. So the majority of this should just sit flat as it is. And again, we're going to break it up to the front facing, get around this edge, get the top to about here, and then we'll get the stretch happening and position the side. So I find this quite therapeutic, you know what I mean? Even after doing it for so many years. You know, don't tell anyone, but I think Raslarr bars are probably the nicest looking ones on the Patrols. Just between you and me. Hence why you're probably watching the video. So take your time with it, don't stretch it, don't, just work with the film as it is. Make sure the car's nice and cool. You can put sunglasses on it, just park it in the shade. Alright, so we're going to come over the top. Just make sure we're rolling the squeegee over the top to ensure there's no bubbles that are going to get trapped here, because it can be sometimes tricky to see, and when you completely dry it, you'll notice there's like a spot of moisture and you're like, God, no thank you. You can understand if there is stone chips, it's going to show them. Okay, so that's the front done. Couple minutes, try to do it more so I can get it in position. Even with my thumb, as I pull back, the elasticity in the film, what I want to do is pull, get it over the edge, just about there. I'm not going all the way because I've still got a position. Okay, that might be able to come out. Persuasion. So if you've just got it to about that point, let's say for example, the squeegee sort of gets it to sit down, but it doesn't stay. You don't want to pull it up, just flush it out. Oh, nice and easy. Right, that's nice. Right there. And now, there's not really much I need to do in terms of position. Probably lift it up a little bit. That's a slip. I'm going to drag to the center. So my thumb's going to place a little bit of tension backwards. I want to make sure that line's nice. Probably 1 or so mil from the edge. Go down the middle. Let's press. And then from here I'm going on a 45-degree angle. Let's remove all those there, and then 45 up. Easy. Yeah, every bar is different. I mean, the installation of this one, I'm only just noticing now that this bar is a little bit kicked in further than the other side. But this car's obviously a couple of years old, but not sure what it's gone through. Alrighty. Alright, that's the top section done. Look on the bottom. Downward position. You want to focus on the sensor first. There. We'll roll that across, let that sit. And then basically like that. Alright. And we'll split this up into thirds. So 1, basically 2, sorry, 1, 2, and then 3. And we'll grab the hot water and soften all that up so we can get that across that side there. There's not much to look out for. Like I said, it's going to be a lot easier if you take the time with your prep work. Prepping is key. Alright. So position, make sure it's nice and even there. And go in towards the center. Okay. And then basically from here, straight down. And work. That's your first. Now that's tacked down. I can add a little bit of stretch this way. And go across the top. That's all locked in. And then with the bottom, I'm just trying to get that to sit a little bit better and then come down. I'm not pulling, I'm just trying to get it to sit. And from here, I'd probably go there, up. Okay. Oh, it's nice and even. That's the entirety of the front.
This third is going to be finished there, right before you reach that corner. Sit. Just making sure we're not under this top one. I'm just running my finger across. Everything's good. Just wait for it to dry. Make sure the water is hot. So if it has been sitting for a while, top it up. And you can do this gradually, but don't add too much stretch with your thumb. I want to have an overall stretch around here. So if I pull too much this way, see how it wrinkles? And then you've got unnecessary stretching here. If I do it here, I can separate my fingers and sort of keep everything even. By adding hot water, so we're getting there. So it's a bit tricky. Extra set of hands helps. So if one person pulls, for example, and holds while the other person squeegees this way, if you find it starting to tack, add a little bit more slip solution. Okay, now we can still move it around. We're getting there. Okay. So if you have a steamer, steamer works a lot better. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. If I add water under there, I can get that to sit down, and it'll be a nice, easy finish. The reason why it's difficult for me, because I'm right-handed, and I'm trying to, I'm very uncoordinated with my left hand. Okay, you can see, we'll fix that up, but the line's pretty good. We'll get our cold water. Flush all that out on the top. That should stick there. And across. You're going to get wet with PPF.
Okay. This up.
All right. So we'll come back to the original side that we were working on. We can see it's sort of dried out now. What we're going to do is try seal all these edges, get them to sit down nicely now that it's dry. That way we get a nice cleaner finish. As you can see, this is still sort of sitting up. So we're just trying to work all that down. So you're going to grab your heat gun. Don't go too close. You just want to add a little bit of heat from a distance. I like to grab microfiber cloth, my finger. Okay. Now come around to the middle. Don't go down, don't go up. We're going to go across. Work down here. Sorry if my big head was in the way there. So some areas are still a little bit wet. Not to worry. Just move on.
So if it is wet and not going down, just let it dry out, don't force it. And see what I mean? I said before, once you dry it, sometimes you can see little spots. Let's try work those out again. So we're going to wedge the squeegee into the rubber, like so. I'll grab my knife. Where do I put that? I'm basically going to go, there should be a little gap between the PPF and the rubber. Don't go too far in. The reason why we haven't cut it is because we've gone extremely light. Again, we don't want to go too far in. I just want to make sure. Alright. What we can do is just squeegee like so. That's the top section done. And we've got a little bit down here. Alright, so this is only necessary if you've installed the bar on the car already and you've got this rubber to deal with, so no biggie. So I'm hitting this edge with water just to dilute the slip solution. Now it tacks down like so. See? So give it time. Yeah, I usually let it dry for about half an hour, come back to it, give some tweaks. And then it's just basically the finishing touches. So once that dries again, I'll hit it with heat, press it down. But I'm just going to move on with the next part. Process is the same with the front here.
The water comes out. And you want to be mindful of little bubbles that can get trapped along this edge. Because put it this way, if there's moisture and you use heat, it's only going to expand. It's going to go cloudy. Nice and shiny. Get dried. Come around with a heat gun. As you can see, the transition between painted and then black and then weld, we try to cover as much of the black as possible, but there is going to be sort of a paint line going through here. That's why the film doesn't sit down. So if it doesn't sit down after a couple of passes, then just let it dry out a little bit more, because there will be pockets of water in there. Just move on. Okay, you can move on down here, because it should stick, and it should finish just before the welded sections. Okay. Just going over the back edge here, because we've allowed it to dry. If I push it down, it's going to create an air pocket. So I'm just gradually getting it to stick. knife wedge between the rubber. Yeah. Alrighty. Nice straight line all the way through here if you want. Okay, so if I let that dry out, create a point. If I heat that and press down, that's how it's going to stay basically. So it will go down, it's just a matter of patience. Come around. So it does get fiddly towards the end, but an extra 10 minutes of trying to get this down as opposed to having a line going straight across. I personally think it's worth it. See, a nice clean finish there. Again, a couple of stone chips. Not much we can really do. Get all the edges dry. Same goes for this center bar, so I'll just zoom in on what you're going to expect. So a fairly large gap here around the cut circles there.
what we're expecting. Again, just wait for this to dry out. We'll add a couple mil extra tolerance. The Raslarr's all cut out nice, so you can see the edge of the PPF, a few mil short. And then you've got a nice point here, and then it comes back up. So I'm pretty happy with that. Getting that position wasn't easy, but we got there. Heaps of test pieces. All the circles cut out again. So when you heat it and finalize it, make sure you're pressing down to seal all the edges. Okay, this one's been battered a fair bit by stone chips, but this is expected. See a massive chip there. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about that. So on the newer bars, you've got holes cut out here and here, and then you've got your semicircles through there, so the film should come up short, follow all the way around. As I was saying, with this paint to satin black to weld, we go just short of the weld, so it might just take a little bit of finesse and drying out, give it a bit more time to dry out and press, because it does stick to this satin black, but because you've got a little step here, there's going to be air that can get trapped. So be patient with that one. Press downwards like this when you heat it to seal it. And the same goes for that. So as you can see, if I press it down, it wants to stay, but it's still a little bit wet. So up on the top there, the same goes. Just let it dry, and it'll sit nicely. And you follow all the way through. It falls just short of the edge back here. Okay, and then same goes for here. So falls just short, and let that edge dry. And then we're going to heat this, get it to sit. Should be all good. Alright, so there's a little bit more work to do on this one because we did this one last, so I've got to wait for that to dry so I can push it down, get it to sit nicely. As you can see, and then we've got the side to go there. So we'll add heat, we'll roll this over, get all the moisture out, roll and cut under the rubber, and then fold underneath. Alrighty, that's looking good so far. We'll add a little bit more depth in terms of the colour throughout. Got more of a sheen to it. And it is a little bit of a thicker film, and we've chosen that for a reason. It's quite easy to work with under a little bit of hot water, hence this bottom corner here. But essentially, being a thicker film, it's going to take a lot more of the impact, especially being a front-facing piece. So what we're going to focus on now is, again, as I said at the start, we're going to supply you with a gloss finish for these, as included in the kit over there. But we will add a separate satin PPF. So you'll get an extra pair for them. So it'll cover the front, here, here, and the other side. So we're going to position ourselves properly. I'm going to show you how to do the front. Alright, we're going to start with the middle. Okay. So fairly straightforward. We haven't overcomplicated it here. Look, we're not going all the way back to this edge because there's just too many things in the way. If you start putting UHF radios and washers, it can tend to pinch all the film around here as you tighten it, and it just doesn't look good. So we cut it short to about there. But you've got a nice straight line. The forward-facing piece is covered. Alright, so we're going to
soak up the surface. Grab the middle piece of the film. Alright, so you've got little notches cut out here. There's a weld that sort of protrudes here. We're going to try to line that up nicely there. And same on the other side. I'm going to add a little bit of stretch going either direction. Now, we have been made aware that with the older bars that have been made and the newer bars, there's a difference in the cutout. So there's going to be, if you've got an older bar, there is a variant, so there's a little bit of a gap there. Top and bottom are fine, but just so you're mindful. So just to make it uniform, I'm gonna find the gap there, see these gaps are even. You can move the top close to the edge as you can. And then the same goes to the bottom. Spray. I'm going to tack here, go that way. So that's that. And the same goes to here. So being mindful that this weld and this notch, the notch sits outside of the weld, that way it sits flat. Otherwise you're going to have little creasing happening down the bottom. Okay, with the top, just go. What I like to do is that edge, the rollover edge, go on the 45, like that, and that'll seal. And you should be able to squeeze this down without the entire piece shifting down. And then we're going to push back. So not overly tricky. I do apologise about the sizing, however. There's no real way around that, and it becomes a logistical nightmare if we have to try adjust it with every order. Okay, so the same applies here. See how it wants to move. So we'll tack the middle section. We'll go one side and we can shift as we move. So it tends to shift across. There might be a little bit of too much slip solution in the mix. You can see, I'm just trying to flush that out. And we'll try again. Patience is key. So I'd probably recommend once you do the painted sections and then move on to here, just go once, 1 drop of slip solution to 1 litre. So readjust your mixtures. It's not a matter of sliding down, you just want it to tack straight away. Again, ceramic coated. It's taking a little longer than it should, but we're getting there. So there's no real tension anywhere. Just getting it to sit nicely. Okay, so that's the middle section done. We're just going to let this dry out before I set it down, but it finishes right before the bolts here where obviously this mounts to, and it falls short in a nice even line just before the mount holes here. Okay, so again, the kit's going to come with the gloss version for this bit and these side strips, but we are going to supply an additional satin version as well if you want to keep that satin look. It won't make it 100%, but it's going to be a lot closer to the finish than what the gloss is. So entirely up to you. You'll get these as spare or the others as spare. Okay, so we'll work on getting this section and this section on. Light mist, small piece. All right, we're going to follow the notch on this one. So notch it again. And come up as close finishes before here. Follows the bottom line just above the welds there, but just to protect all the front facing items of the car. Towards the back. Easy. Okay, just steering clear of the welds. Alright. And we'll just let that dry. So do that side, do the other side, but I'll show you how to get this one done. So the easiest way to differentiate 3 and 4. 3, 4. Okay, there's going to be a slight kink this way on top of the 3. That's your passenger side, for example. All right. But if you look at the if you look at the installation booklet, it'll be marked out left and right, so you don't get confused. There's not much difference in it, but alright, so just position like so. So you'll notice that just line up the circles like so. Okay, you'll notice we've come up short just a little bit there, again to avoid the welds, and then a little bit short here. So I'm going to want to tack this area like that. Go in the middle of the circles, because if I squeegee up, then it's going to shift it a weird way. And come back across. All right. Now, once you've got it to this edge, what we're going to do. So we've got this all in place, so work on that. Squeegee in the middle, go out this way, and then tack to here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this up a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of tension over the first circle. Okay, so if you line up the first circle nicely, the rest will follow suit. That. And then the rest are nicely. And again, just from the middle to the side. Don't need a massive amount of pressure. Well, just like that. So go ahead and dry it. Alrighty. So I'm going to continue to work down there because I feel like that's dry enough now just to squeegee under, and then I'll give it one last heat and seal. So it's just going down nicely, exactly how I want it.
All right, guys, and that's pretty much it. One DIY bull bar installed, ready to go. So whether you're taking on short trips or long trips, we've got you covered. All right, so a special thanks to the gentleman that lent me this car over the weekend. You are an absolute legend, and as promised, we're going to throw in a couple of extra goodies so we can send you on your way. I've noticed a couple of scratches here. We'll buff them out, get this car looking absolutely nice and clean. I want to give a massive shout out to Raslarr Engineering for lending us a bar so that we can work with. They've been absolutely fantastic to deal with, start to finish, you know, proposing the idea to them and, you know, trying to make something special for their product and tying it into, you know, our passion and what we do. So a big shout out to them. Can't thank them enough. And thank you to everybody else, you know, for watching the content, for buying our products. You know, this has been about 4 years working on Patrols, and time again, we're just trying to make, you know, bring our love for cars and our passion and try to create products and services and experiences to bring to you guys. And, you know, I really couldn't have done what I have done over so many countless years if it wasn't for this car, but more importantly, if it wasn't for you guys watching, supporting, purchasing, and just being a part of our Patrol family. So shout out to you guys. Thank you so much. Leave a like, comment. I'm not too good with YouTube, so just do whatever you need to do. Subscribe for more content. I believe there's going to be more products like this coming out. We're allocating more time and investing into more products like this. So essentially, it's going to be a market that we're going to put all our time and energy to. So we're going to tackle a lot more products, and hopefully we can have more goodies for you guys. So thanks again. I appreciate you. I love you. Take care.